Good day, IGs, and today we're going to have a look at some exercises from chapter 13 that I gave you already for homework. I'm just going to do a couple of mixed ones, so some of the ones might be some that you were given, others are just other exercises that I didn't give, but I'm just going to choose a few random ones to do just to give you some indication of how to do the exercises. So watch and learn and try and do the ones that you have for homework. So the first one I'm going to start with is in exercise 13.7. So these are quadratic equations and they ask to solve them by factorizing. So let me pick one or two. I'm going to pick number 1e to start with, and that one is as follows. It is x squared minus 5x, so x squared minus 5x, and it is plus 6 equals 0. Okay, so again we want to factorize, so that means that the quadratic has to go into two brackets, and we ask ourselves, what are the factors of 6? Okay, well the factors of 6 are 2 and 3, or 6 and 1, and we want to get a minus 5. So then we also got to consider some negatives here, and since there is a plus 6 but a minus 5, it means that both signs in the brackets are going to have to be negative, because only a negative and a negative will give a positive, but the two negatives can give us a negative 5. So we have to clearly have a minus 3 and a minus 2, because minus 3 minus 2 is minus 5, but minus 3 times 2 is positive 6, and so there are my two brackets, x minus 3, x minus 2, and this means that because we want to make each bracket 0, what value of x makes this first bracket 0? The answer is 3. 3 minus 3 is 0, and then 0 times the other bracket will be x minus, will still make the equation 0, or the other value is that the x can equal 2, because that's what makes the second bracket 0. If I put a 2 in there, I get 0 for the answer when I multiply. So there we go, there's the first one. Okay, we're going to choose another one. Let's just clear that one away. So let's do number 2e, which is x squared plus 2x minus 15. X squared plus 2x minus 15 equals 0. Alright, so this time again, two brackets, because they said by factorizing. So there we'll put our two brackets. And what makes minus 15? Well, the one value will have to be minus and the other value will have to be positive. And remember, when we add them up together, we must get a positive 2. So the factors of 15 are 15 and 1, and 5 and 3. So if I say 5 and minus 3, because 5 minus 3 will give me a positive 2, so that must be positive 5, but negative 3. And there is my factorizing, which means that the x answer, for which makes the what value makes the bracket 0, the x can either be a 3 to make the first bracket 0, or a minus 5 for the second bracket. And there we have our solution. Right, so let's go on to the next one. I'm now going to do number 3e, which is x squared plus x squared plus x is equal to 12. Now the problem with this one is that it is not in the standard form, or that it does not equal 0. So to do that, we'll have to make sure that we subtract the 12 first onto this side and then make the 0. Okay, so that's now an extra step from what we had before. Remember, you can't factorize if you don't have the equation equal to 0. Okay, so now we can factorize and we can say, all right, if that equals 0, and we should put these nice little triangular dots there, which mean therefore to say that this is the next line. What values give us minus 12? Well, the answer is the factors of 12 are 4 and 3, 6 and 2, or 12 and 1. And the 4 and the 3 are going to work, because 4 minus 3 will give me a positive 1, which is what I want in the middle here. So here we will get x plus 4 and x minus 3. So there we can see the 4 times the x. If I multiply over here, 4 times the x, that gives me 4x. But minus 3x here gives me the minus 3x, and that will give me the positive 1x that I'm having a look for over here. Okay, and that means I can go on to the answer now, which means that x equals minus 4 or positive 3. Okay, so there we go. We've solved that one. Let's do another. So I'll now have a look at number 4e. I think I gave this one for homework the other day. So this will be one that you would have probably looked at already, but let's do it. X squared minus 2x. Let me start that one again. Yeah, so I see it's not on the screen that you're actually seeing. So x squared minus 2x and equals 63. Well, again, we'll have to make this equal to 0, so we're going to say x squared minus 2x minus 63 is equal to 0. And again, the factors of 63, well, there's 63 and 1. There's also 3 and 21. Neither of those are going to give me a 2, but then there's 9 and 7 if you know your times table. And this time I want a minus 2, so I better start with a minus 9 and add the 7. That'll give me a minus 2. So this is x minus 9, x plus 7 equals 0. And that means that the x can equal positive 9 or negative 7. Alright, are you happy with that one? Not too difficult, but this is how you do the factorizing of the trinomials. So let's go on to the next ones, okay, which are a little bit different. So this is now exercise 13.8, and I'm going to start with the first one over there, which is 1a, and that is x squared minus 9. Alright, let's write that here. X squared minus 9 equals 0. Now it's very tempting to do the following. Okay, I'm going to put that over here. It's very tempting to say, well, that means that x squared equals 9, and therefore x must equal the square root of 9, which is 3, and to think that I've finished the sum. But you're not entirely correct if you do that, because remember, the x squared minus 9 that we have here is actually a difference of squares, which can factorize, if you remember your difference of squares, as x minus 3 or x plus 3. Okay, there's my two brackets for the difference of squares. And that means I get two answers. I get 3 or minus 3 as answers. Of course, if you went this route on the right-hand side, over here, if you did go this route, and you then said, okay, let's make it plus or minus 3, because we know that the square root of a number can be the positive or negative, then you would have been correct. But understand that the correctness comes from the fact that this actually is the difference of squares that we see over here. Okay, so that's why it's correct. That's why you get the two answers of plus and minus 3, because you should factorize the brackets out in the difference of squares. Okay, so there's number 1a. We're going to move on to the next one now. I'm going to do x squared. This is number 1f now, and so this one is x squared minus, and we have 220 is equal to 5. Alright, so again, we see that the equation is not equal to 0, so the only logical solution is to make it equal to 0. That looks much better. By bringing them 5 over, that means we subtract another 5 and we get minus 225. Okay, so now we've got it equal to 0. This again is a difference of two squares. And what is the factorization of this? Well, it is x minus 15 and x plus 15. Alright, 15 times 10, you know, is 150. And if you times that by half of 150, it's another 75. So 15 times 15 is 225. Okay, so there we go. X equals 15 or minus 15 again. There we go, and we've done that one. Also difference of squares. Right, let's move a little bit further. Well, number 2a looks a little different, and it is now also still a difference of squares, but it's got a variable or a factor in front of the x squared. So now we have 4x squared minus 25 is equal to 0. This is 2a of 13.8. Right, so let's have a look. again, we'll go 2 brackets. What is the square root of 4x squared? The answer, 2x. So both brackets there must get a 2x. What is the square root of 25? It is 5. And so now we have a plus or minus. Now the answer here is, what is the x value that will make the bracket 0? So in other words, for this first one over here, this first bracket, we're going to want a value over here that is equal to 5. So if 2x must be equal to 5, what is x equal to? Well, we must divide by 2, so that means that the x must be equal to 5 over 2, or 2.5. Because 2 times 2.5 is the 5, and 5 minus the 5 will make it 0. And over here, of course, this will just be the negative of 5 over 2. Right, so there you have your answers for that question. We're going to go a little bit further still, and we're going to look now. Let's jump a little bit, and I'd actually like to go and do number 6a, okay, because number 6a is a little bit weird. Okay, so x squared minus 8x. X squared minus 8x is equal to 0. Now in this case, we see that we have an expression where there's no value for constant terms, so don't have a trinomial. But what is one of the rules that we always do when we're looking at any algebraic expression or equation? We ask, can we factorize? And here, the simple way of factorizing is to take out a common factor, because there's an x in both terms. So if we did that, we'd end up with this line. And then we say, okay, well, what can the x values be? Now, the bracket one's easy, because you probably thought, well, that means that the x can equal 8. But what about this first x over here? What about that x? What can that be? Okay, because if I'm going to make a value for that one, and the other bracket doesn't matter, what is the value I should put in for that x? Well, the answer is simply 0. Okay, the x, the red x underlined, or the underlined red x, must be a 0, because if I make that x a 0, then whatever's inside that bracket is going to be multiplied by 0, which will make the equation 0, and therefore it is a valid solution. So remember always to think about factorizing when you do any expression. Alright, so that's number 6a. Shall we try number 6f as well? 4x squared minus 16x. 4x squared minus 16x equals 0. Now again, we want to factorize. So what can come out here? Well, a 4x can come out, and then I'm left with another, let's not make that 4x, sorry, just an x, because 4x times x is the x squared, but here we will have a 4, okay, because 4x times 4 is equal to the 16x. Alright, so again, what makes the bracket 0? Well, again, the x can just be a 0, because 4 times 0 is still 0, and then we can also say that the x can equal 4. Okay, so there are our two answers. X equals 0 or x equals 4. Okie dokes. So you've got a couple more exercises over the page. All of these actually work in very similar ways, so I'm going to leave those for you to try. In our next session, I'm going to look at exercise 13.9.